So Game Pass today did something super interesting. They only announced a few games for the rest of the month, but the games they announced are super exciting. Plus March is looking really good. We're going to start this with a series that I've always enjoyed in EA Sports F1 24. Now, I am a little biased on this one. I'm a huge fan of this franchise due to developer Codemaster always making F1 a must play on Game Pass for me. The career mode, guys, for me is top notch. You take a race team up and build the entire thing from the ground up, the car, the guys you hire, and you work your way to a championship squad. Then factor in the gameplay, the tight driving, and the suspense of winning a race, and it gets so good. Admittedly, this franchise in the past though has been kind of high difficulty, so races can be hard unless you really tone down the difficulty, and even then I'd say the game is still kind of hard to play. But if you love some realism, you love a challenge, you love heart-pumping races, this is one of the best franchises out there. Oh, and one last thing, F1 24 does feature split screen co-op as well, so you can race with a buddy. This is one of my favorite racers, and it arrives on Game Pass on February 20th. Now the next game is one I'm super freaking happy to see land on Game Pass, because I seriously have been debating buying this for 6 months, and I almost have so many times, and now I don't have to because Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader is coming. And since I did beat the game Baldur's Gate 3, this has been the closest to potentially giving me that fun experience. Now I'm not saying it's on that level, but this is a really good game. Here you play as an heir in a dynasty of traitors, but a coup eliminated rival claimants, and now you as the player will confront that political fallout and chaos. Now the game does feature like this top-down strategic gameplay, kind of like you see in Baldur's Gate 3, where you will be gathering your team all with different skills, and you will decide how to approach each scenario. You might decide maybe to show mercy to the people or just be ruthless. Either way, your actions will have long-term effects in the game. Me personally, I'm going to be downloading this as soon as it arrives. It does come with close to 20,000 overwhelmingly positive user reviews, and this has been a well-loved game since its release. This should be a good one as it lands on Game Pass on February 20th. Now another excellent title joining Game Pass is Watch Dogs Legion. This is a game I have personally played from start to finish. I feel it's one of the more underrated Ubisoft titles. It has this unique feature that I haven't seen in a lot of games where you recruit somebody. You can recruit pretty much anyone you see in the open world, and each person has their own set of skills and you can use to complete all sorts of objectives and missions in the game. But the big thing here is you're fighting an oppressive force that has no intention of doing good things in the world. You're part of this hacker group called DedSec, and you hope to fight against this tyranny, and it's the people of London who are fighting back. Now each mission you take on, you recruit random people, like I said, from anywhere you see, and you use their specific skills to approach the mission in, with their little skills that they have. Maybe one game you go in stealth, or another you recruit someone with more direct skills to fight in the open. Either way, while the game can be kind of repetitive at times, I really, believe this or not, I really enjoyed the Pokemon-like aspect of recruiting different people with different skills, and as I'd go on the hunt to find kind of like the best in London, and not everybody has the same skills, so it very much has like that Pokemon-like effect of recruiting all sorts of different people. This is a very fun, unique open world game, and one that I definitely recommend when it lands on Game Pass on February 25th. And with that, we do have Ark Survival Astraeos DLC. This comes in with new places to explore, new bosses, an alpha dino variant, and a lot more. This one is already available to play now. So finally, we are getting really close to the release of Avowed, and if you've been watching my videos, you know I've been keeping a close eye on this because honestly, it looks really good. It's kind of like a more flexible Skyrim style RPG, but built for more modern players. With a mix of exploration, action, and deep storytelling, you'll be dropped into this gorgeous yet wildly dangerous world called Aurora, and I'm probably saying that wrong. And while you're not exactly like the Dragonborn, you're still a chosen one tasked with stopping a mysterious plague that's been turning people into monsters. But don't worry, you've got options. You have melee weapons, powerful magic, and even guns to fight back. Plus, from what we've seen, the game is packed with a variety of quests and activities that'll keep you hooked for a long time. Not only that, since this game has already kind of come out in early access, the reviews have been really good. A ton of people have been really enjoying it, as in the reviewers, and I'm going to be right there alongside you guys playing this on February 18th on Game Pass. And guys, course, Xbox is really cooking this year with a ton of awesome first-party games. So there's this really awesome mix of tower defense and city builder with a game called Kingdom 2 Crowns, and this one just dropped on Game Pass. Now if you're into strategy games, this one's definitely worth checking out. Instead of the usual top-down view, it takes a more unique approach with a very gorgeous but minimalistic 2D perspective, and while it's a micro strategy game, it's still just as deep as any other great strategy game out there, and you'll be doing things like gathering resources, managing units, researching new tech, and expanding your kingdom while also fighting off these relentless enemies. And honestly guys, the challenge really ramps up in such a satisfying way that it really keeps you hooked. Plus, if things get tough, you don't even have to face it alone if you don't want. You can team up with a friend in co-op mode, which really makes the whole experience definitely a little bit different than the single player experience. I've gotten to play this game in the past and it's one that I couldn't recommend more. So we do have Atomfall just around the corner, and I'm sure you've heard about this one since a lot of people have been talking about how basically it's like the British version of Fallout. Essentially that's kind of what's been, mentioned out there, but instead of a completely dead and barren wasteland, this one actually throws you into a post-apocalyptic world that still has some life to it. And this one you'll be doing all the good survival stuff. You'll be scavenging for resources, crafting, bartering, and of course fighting off some dangerous enemies. And then speaking of the combat, this game puts a big emphasis on hand-to-hand fights since firearms will still be pretty rare to find. I love that the game's set in this like dangerous British countryside. It's packed with detailed rural villages, beautiful valleys, some really eerie nuclear bunkers, there's these dark caves, and a whole lot more. This is really shaping up to be a really unique survival experience, and it's coming directly to Game Pass when it comes out on March 27th. And after getting delayed back in 2024, we have Commandos Origins, and this is back on track on Game Pass. I've been a big Commandos fan since the Men of Courage days, so I'm seriously excited about this one. For those who don't know, Commandos is a classic early 2000 real-time strategy series where you lead a squad of elite special ops soldiers through some of the really toughest military missions set in World War II. Now Origins brings back some of that same old school tactical gameplay with 10 highly challenging missions, each set in different environments with unique challenges, and you'll be pulling off everything from covert sabotage to all-out raids and even some of the most intense spy missions. But Commandos has never really been about brute force, as you'll be having to use all 5 soldiers strategically, combining their unique skills to get through each mission. This one is set to come out in Game Pass sometime in April. So this piece of Game Pass news is going to be a little different than a lot of other types of news that I've ever kind of done, because this kind of came as a shock as Football Manager 2025 has been cancelled. Not delayed, but completely scrapped. It was originally set to launch in 2024 and even had plans to join Game Pass, but after multiple delays, the developers have confirmed that this won't be coming out at all. Instead, Sports Interactive, the guys behind the franchise, has decided to skip straight to the next installment, which is a pretty unusual move. According to them, this decision came after a lot of internal discussion, though they haven't given a lot of details on why they've taken this route. Either way, this is definitely a letdown for a lot of fans of this franchise. It's definitely not the end though. In fact, they have confirmed that the next one should be coming, and hopefully that means we'll be seeing Football Manager 26 on Game Pass next year. Now on the bright side, we actually did get an announcement for 2 new Day 1 games coming to Game Pass this year. Our first game is Blueprints. This is a super unique puzzle exploration game that really could be the next big thing, right up there with classics like Portal. The game's demo has already been a huge hit on Steam, with some major critics even calling it a Game of the Year contender. In this game, you find yourself trapped in a manor where the rooms and hallways constantly change, forcing you to think outside the box to make any progress, and you've got to be real smart to explore without running in circles, which makes for an incredibly engaging and mind-bending experience. So yeah, you're definitely going to want to keep an eye on this one and check out the demo on PC if you guys are really curious about this game. Now our next one's called Abiotic Factor, which is set in early access, or it's already out on early access on PC, and people have been having a blast with this one. This is a 1 to 6 player co-op survival game where you're stuck in a rather brutal underground facility dealing with a supernatural containment breach and a full-blown military operation. Basically, it's pure madness, and you'll need to think strategically to keep yourself alive. And the game throws tons of challenges at you, like mutated creatures, paranormal anomalies, distorted gravity artifacts, and an army of trigger-happy soldiers. However, you're not a soldier, you're actually a scientist, which means you can't just shoot your way out like you would in normal games. Instead, you'll have to use your brain, craft gadgets, and and outsmart everything trying to kill you. This one is set to join Game Pass sometime this year. Alright, and with that, we got to go right back to some more bad news, man, and that sucks. We have 2 day 1 Game Pass games that have been delayed. Our first one is Replaced, which is a game that really caught my eye. It's got this insanely cool cinematic combat, this really cool, gorgeous pixel art visuals. The game does promise a deep story that explores the dark side of like a dictator-ruled society where you play as an AI trapped in a human body just trying to survive and make ends meet. It's got that cyberpunk meets retro futurism vibe to it, and I was seriously hyped for it. The game was supposed to come out sometime in 2025, but guys, this game has been pushed all the way back to 2026, and I just want to make a quick note about this game. I've actually been talking about this game for years now, so to see yet another delay to me is almost insane. Our next game that's delayed is The Altars, and honestly, I really thought this was shaping up to be something super unique and something we could play soon. Here you play as a lone space engineer stuck on a hostile alien planet with your only way out is your ship, and it's just not functional. But you do have this insane device that lets you clone yourself, creating multiple versions of you, each with different abilities and skills, and you know, you're trying to make it out alive. Sadly though, as I said, this will be delayed. It was supposed to come out back in 2024, and hopefully we still get to see it sometime later this year, but it's gonna be late 2025 with no specific date. Now, a game that did drop on Game Pass that was a little bit of a surprise is Ryse Son of Rome, the Legendary Edition. This dropped on Game Pass some time ago. Honestly, this is one of those games that I've always wished got a sequel, but even without one, Ryse still holds up pretty well. The graphics I still think are pretty stunning. The combat is also just as brutal and cinematic, and since we're getting the Legendary Edition, that means it comes with full season pass content plus 3 bonus maps for solo mode and a new Legionary skin. If you guys haven't played it, check it out. It's available on Game Pass now. Alright guys, Lies of P is getting a huge new DLC. This one's actually a prequel to the main game. Overture takes us to the final days of Krat, right before everything went horribly wrong. This will definitely give more context to the story that we've been exploring. It's got some new backstory, some hidden secrets, and probably some major lore reveals. That's not all. This DLC also brings new characters, challenges, and what I'm hoping to be some seriously intense drama to the game. This one is set to drop sometime this summer, and honestly, I can't wait to see what it adds to this already amazing game. If you haven't played this wild take on a Souls-like, you should really check out Lies of P on Game Pass. And lastly, we have some good news to balance some things out here. Classic Modern Warfare 2 is rumored to be joining Game Pass possibly in March or April at the latest. I think this is huge, but honestly not too surprising as well, as there's already 2 Call of Duty games already on Game Pass, and I feel like if this rumor checks out, this will be the 3rd. Now, there's still some big questions on whether multiplayer will be included, since support for the 2009 Modern Warfare 2 servers were shut down a while ago. But even without that, this game was an absolute classic back in the day, and I still think it holds up really well. So if you're craving some of that legendary FPS experience, this could definitely be your chance. Personally, I think there's a good shot this will drop next month. And finally guys, we have the games leaving Game Pass. We have a crap ton of games leaving, including Maneater, Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun, some Yakuza games, which I gotta say I'm sad to see, and these will be leaving on February 28th.